What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 705 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert Fleece.
705 live, baby.
We're on the Neville level as well, 77. And also, of course, as always, let's see if it takes him a second here, Callum Wiggins.
See, this time it's my impression of the crowd when Sarah Logan comes out.
We will be talking about that today. We will be talking about the R-Truth release as well. We will be talking about the first ever Evolve champion on the men's side, so on and so forth. We actually have quite a bit of things to talk about. Some pretty standard stuff and some pretty off-the-wall things as well. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts, because we are going to get into episode 705. But of course, we always want to know what you have to say as well. So drop your thoughts in the comments section below. If you want to hit up the Discord server, that is a great way for you to chat it up at any point in time about anything that you want to on one of those different little channels that we have over there. Keep in mind, too, if you are over on YouTube in particular, though, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, get those email alerts set up for the post-show / shows that will be happening tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be doing when it comes to that. I thought originally I was just going to do one post-show immediately afterward. Now I'm kind of second-guessing that and thinking maybe I should do a quick thing for Worlds Collide just to get it out of the way, and then having less time that I need to dedicate to a post-show after Money in the Bank, because if you're interested in the Worlds Collide thing, you probably would check that out afterward anyway. I don't know. We're going to figure that out, I guess, just like on the spot, especially because it seems like they're going to go on forever. TNA Against All Odds is happening tonight, and that's just going to bleed into the pay-per-views for tomorrow, and I guess Money in the Bank's supposed to end at like midnight or something stupid. I don't know. So we'll talk about that. And
at 7, what are you talking about?
It's listed on Peacock as a 6.5 hour show that starts at 5:30.
Okay, sure, whatever. There's 4 matches. What do you mean?
Yep. So I'm hoping that what that means is that they've just blocked off until midnight just in case the press conference, if they do one afterward. I don't know if they've said for sure that they will. They need to, because how can they possibly get all that much time out of this? If you have the show start at 7, that's an hour and a half worth of a pre-show, which, okay, sure, fine. You still don't need an hour and a half to do that anyway, but okay. I don't think 7 until midnight is conceivable for 4 matches, but I'm hoping that they just end at 10. I don't know. We'll see. So, in any fashion, if you have your email alert set up, you'll get a little email alert when we do go live for either and or one of those things. And keep in mind, too, that if you are clicking on the like button, you're doing all that kind of stuff, then you should also click on the join button that it's right next to subscribe and help us out on the monetary side of things. Help us keep the lights on here and be able to continue to keep doing this podcast and the website and everything. That is, of course, a different set of tiers that we have over there. Even $1 a month is greatly appreciated. $5 and up, even more so. Darkcast tier, $10 a month. And Pick Your Poison tier, that is when you get to request some kind of specific thing that you want us to do and basically fund that episode and make sure that we do it. Patreon, same exact thing. Thanks button, basically the same as the live chats, the super chat things and stuff like that. And Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick up your merchandise if you are interested in getting anything along that front. Still shout out to Dashery for not responding at all to my inability to put that stuff on YouTube. And that proves that companies just keep getting worse. So screw those guys. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about here, so I don't even know exactly where to start necessarily. We're going to bounce around quite a bit, so I guess I'll just toss out this one. The Young Bucks are still talking about purchasing Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and basically having that be like one of their nest eggs going forward, and something that, to be perfectly honest, I could see them dedicating a lot of time to and kind of stepping a little bit away from AEW in some fashion, because they've been doing less and less for AEW as time's gone on. And I don't know, maybe there was something there. Maybe they might end up looking at leaving that or taking another bigger hiatus or something. As far as I'm aware, they haven't fully purchased PWG yet, but that it seems like it's kind of a done deal and it's just sort of waiting on all the contracts and stuff. But you guys know way more about PWG than I will ever know. So what do you guys think about this whole setup?
PWG was fantastic promotion, and I think it was the lifeblood of the indie scene for a time in the early to mid 2010s. And obviously it's where, the Young Bucks made their name. Roderick Strong made a lot of major appearances for PWG. Kevin Steen, Generico really became staples in PWG. I think that's where, quite frankly, where Regal scouted all of them. So PWG was huge. And like everything, I think the pandemic all but shut it down, along with the creation of AEW and the kind of shift in the indie scene as all of the top indie guys now had a place to go. I hope they buy it. I hope it's a hot independent territory for the next generation of wrestling.
I mean, I would like PWG to survive because just the legacy that it has and being a kind of formative promotion prior to AEW. But, I mean, I guess if it's owned by the Young Bucks, it's not really independent, is it? Be a feeder territory for AEW. So, but even in that, in that vein, can still be a useful tool for people, definitely in the California region.
But I don't think it has to be a feeder for just AEW. You would assume so if it's owned by the Bucks. But maybe there might be a slight desire for them to be fully independent, at least with this particular venture.
I mean, I guess it all depends on how their relationship continues over the years. Like, if they do end up just being like, all right, well, we're just going to stick with AEW for basically the rest of our lives, then I think just by its sheer nature, it would have to end up being a feeder. Eventually somebody from PWG is going to be like, all right, I'd like to be a part of one of the bigger companies. So then they go, well, then go up to AEW. But it could be that they just really rather like the indies and they could just be like, look, we don't fuck around with this, bigger kind of company aspect. We like being indie type guys and that's more fun. And then they might want to just keep that kind of aesthetic. Some people really prefer that, fans and performers.
What's the source of this story? You said it was Meltzer?
I didn't say who it was because I don't remember. It was something that I came across recently. I think it was Cage-Side Siege is where I came across it.
It's like Matt Jackson gave an interview saying that if PWG was up for sale, they want to buy it.
Okay. All right.
WrestleZone's got something up about 2 hours ago or so from somebody also talking about it too. So I guess it's just kind of going around.
I know Matt Jackson also, he has the travel show with his wife, and he had mentioned that, yeah, he'd been approached about BTE coming back and maybe doing BTE the movie. And I think...
What?
I think
BTE the movie?
It's underrated how much BTE and PWG and that whole vibe lifted the Bucks and what eventually became AEW. I think you do need some of that energy in there.
What's BTE the movie going to be? How would you do a movie about that?
The search for Cody Rhodes.
Or just be like an extended episode of BTE that would last for, I mean, let's say like movie, it would probably be like an hour long just episode where they just go through a series of the old characters that they've had and stuff along those lines. I don't think we should read too much into it as being like this big, massive production. It'll probably just be something that they put on YouTube, like a feature-length episode that they call a movie instead.
I thought you guys were talking about like that they would do like cinema release or something. I'm like, okay, I don't know how they pull that off.
I would love Cody's Big Adventure. I mean, come on. You've got the story of Hangman and his huge dick. You've got the BTE championship can be defended. I don't know who last held that. I think there's plenty you can do with BTE the movie.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I was watching that a lot when it was like the pandemic setup, but I lost track of that a long time ago. Let's see. Let's pass off another thing that we got going on here. WWE is going to be having Slim Jim tables now. So the advertisements that are happening just keep happening more and more and more and more, because you can't have too much real estate on your screen with an advertisement, can you? You know? Now, I will say, I don't like this, but I would prefer this to a lot of the other alternatives that they could potentially do, that they probably will do, because companies literally do not know when to stop when it comes to this. Look at streaming services being like perpetually, you don't have to pay for anything. No, now you have to pay for something, but it doesn't have ads. Well, now you have to pay for limited ads. Well, now you have to pay, and it's ads, but at least you're not going to pay as much as the tier with more ads and that kind of crap.
What's the new one? That they're going to like AI ads into the content or something? Like, even if you're like, there would somehow be like ads within the show you're watching. Like almost like Truman Show-ish.
They
like
want to, every company wants to try to figure out a way to just completely exploit everybody constantly for advertisements, which, here's another discussion for another day, or though, does that fucking work on anybody? Like, I don't know how many goddamn ads I've seen of the same things when I'm watching these TV shows, and I couldn't even tell you what the ads are because I'm paying such little attention to it. And if I do know what the ads are, I actively don't want to be a part of that. If anything, it's a meme or something. Like, I can tell you what Morgan and Morgan is because the guy repeats it 1,000 times. I'm never going to approach Morgan and Morgan for any legal stuff. Thankfully, I don't have anything that I need to, at least. But I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to go with the Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan people. No, fucking idiots. And they are plastered all over my TV. Let me go over to somebody else that actually gets recommended to me. How many times do I got to get the BK Whopper or something or whatever? I haven't had Burger King in like 11 years. So
it's been a long time since I had Burger King.
Yeah, but then again, I'm, not the average idiot that's out there that it's going to fall victim of this kind of stuff. So maybe snapping through a Slim Jim table, somebody's going to see somebody put another wrestler through that logo and then go, I don't think I want to shove that meat in my mouth. That sounds terrible. As soon as I said that, I was like, all right, well, that's coming out.
Dude, during Pride Month. Why won't you put that meat in your mouth?
Hello, Jim. What's going on?
Now, snap into it. Like,
I will say, though, like, I would rather it be snapping to a Slim Jim table and, like, snap and break the table. Like, okay, they can't feasibly have everybody go through tables 100 times in an episode. And if you're going to have a table spot and it's a blank table and you throw a Slim Jim table on there, sure. If that's what keeps somebody else on the roster, which we're going to talk about these releases, put a Slim Jim logo on the fucking thing, have somebody slam them through it, and then that's it. I'd rather that be the case than for them to continually do even more and more of what they are doing, which is just I'm going to read something out to you during this, and then an ad's going to pop up, and then the bottom corner is this, and the Money in the Bank briefcase got the logo on it. And I am looking to the future because I know it's going to happen. Eventually, we're going to see people wearing gear that has all the different advertisements on it. It's going to be like stupid NASCAR where it's like this is plastered all over the place, and UFC where people come out and they got trunks that have 1,000 logos on them and all this. It's gonna happen.
Now, in fairness to the whole UFC comparison, it's a completely different thing. The UFC, they have small logos. WWE is going to be like, here's these giant, massive logos.
They're going to name people after sponsorships. Instead of it being like main event Jey Uso, it's going to be like progressive Jey Uso.
lot during Pride Month, Tony. It's Pride Month. What are we getting from Progressive Jey Uso?
Insurance. But it's not the worst thing. And again, I would rather see that on a table than to see it all over the ring, even though they're still going to do that anyway. We're dystopian. It's all fucking Brock Lesnar's fault.
By the way, why the fuck does the Slim Jim logo fine? Why is there a giant WWE logo at the table?
Is it like a dick measuring contest where they're like, well, we can't just have that. We have to have our logo too. So it has to be equally as big. It should just be the Slim Jim logo in the center. But
yeah,
maybe this is their way of being like, well, we could add more than the Slim Jim logo. And then that way we can have room for 3. And there could be a WWE logo in the center and the Slim Jim on the left and then something else on the right or something, you know.
And that's the new table for 3.
Yeah, it's not great. A lot of that stuff. But speaking of dystopian and all, Liv Morgan's stalker was arrested outside of the WWE Performance Center recently. And Roxanne Perez, by the way, is getting targeted by some nut job that is on Twitter with this is Roxanne Perez dead yet account. Fucking sick people, and I hope the worst for them. I want to put it that way, you know?
Yeah, but I think your lack of subtlety is apropos right now. Like, these are horrible people. These are also, you know, just strange and deranged people who probably, you know, belong in a padded room, but, like,
or just
keep them away. I like the sad thing is the people on Twitter who reach out to poor Adam Pearce being like, please help Roxanne Perez, not realizing it's a show. No matter how much they slap you in the face with how much it's a show, they don't know. And as much as Adam Pearce is a great man, I'm sure he, you know, isn't the authorities and can't, you know, get these sickos away from Roxanne. Or Liv.
Scrap Daddy, help, make it official.
It's like, I hope that these girls are safe and, you know, these people get what's coming to them.
There's no excuse for this kind of stuff either. If people are like, oh, they're just trolling. No. Fuck you. No. You do not do that kind of shit. Like, what is wrong with people? Your weird fascinations with celebrity stuff aside, that's already creepy if you are like obsessed with a celebrity or anybody. It doesn't have to be a celebrity. Do not be obsessed with people. Be your own person and all that stuff. But then on top of that, these celebrities owe you nothing. They are just regular people like everybody else that happen to have a big public persona and do things where other people can see them. That is it. They are normal people. They are not some like entities to worship. They are not your fucking friends until you actually get to know these people and all. This parasocial relationship is not the right thing. And I hope that they've actually like done the research for whoever this person for Perez and this Liv Morgan stalker is, because it's like, that stuff's serious. This dude's, I'm assuming it's a guy, could be a woman, who knows, tweeting out a countdown to potentially hurt her. And today's supposed to be the day that they were counting toward, which if I'm, you know, around Roxanne's circle, I'm like, hey, they tweeted out your address. I'm assuming that that's her address. You probably doxed her. Don't go there until we get this person. And like, we're going to beef up security and we're going to figure out what's happening and like actually get these people, because the stupidest thing that happens all the time is the perpetual wait until something happens and then afterward you go, well, we didn't know, the warning signs weren't there and all that. I don't know too much about this Liv Morgan stalker situation. Apparently somebody else got arrested out front of the Performance Center on top of that. That was like unrelated, and I guess they had like a warrant for something else or whatever. So they just like arrested 2 people on the same day, which, you know, that's a small area, that Performance Center. I don't know how the hell that ended up happening, but
I mean, dude, it's Florida. You're like pretty much every day there's going to be someone who just like who nobody knows why they're getting arrested, but they're getting arrested for some fucked up shit. So,
well, you have to drive into like an area for the Performance Center. Like it takes about like say 2 minutes to drive from the road to the Performance Center. So if they got arrested like outside the front of it, I'm curious what sparked. Like the Liv Morgan stalker, probably there specifically for that reason, but like the random person with like the traffic stop violation or whatever the hell it would have been, like that I think is a little bit interesting. I mean, the whole thing's interesting, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, don't fucking stalk people.
Yeah, I mean, as I think everyone kind of knows how hard life is for women in general, anyway, in particular in terms of this stuff. Like, it's just always so. I mean, and particularly in this situation, you have to take it seriously because we're not very far removed from the Sonya Deville thing that happened a couple of years back. So, like, yeah, all these things need to be taken super seriously. We can't just say, oh, they're either just trolling or it's like, oh, it's just like these empty threats. No one's ever going to do anything. Well, they have. It's been demonstrated that if they find this stuff out, they can do things that put these wrestlers' lives at risk. So yeah, we need to obviously take these sort of things seriously. Hopefully they have put protections in place for her, or they've found this nut job and like dealt with him the way that he should be dealt with. And yeah, just hope for the best moving forward for them. But yeah, the only thing we can just keep echoing is I presume and hope that like this applies to none of the people that are listening, but it's more of a case of just if you and anyone else just echo the thoughts of, if you know anybody of like this or you see anybody behave like this online, then you need to be shouting them down and basically either saying to them like, well, I would encourage people to like seek out help if they feel in this sort of way, because we need to try and like, they need to be corrected or need to be like, you know, educated into why what they're doing is bad, and if they won't be educated, then they need to be in jail. So
educated or incarcerated, or then you take another step after that. But like sick fucking people, ridiculous.
For real.
Let's see what should we go to next.
There's hold on, just because I'm googling it now. I'm searching it on Twitter now, and that person, the Roxanne person, has a burner where they're just constantly tweeting "Hope Roxanne unalives," and then tweeting various ways of they wish that Roxanne went unalive. This is a very sick person, so I hope that they rot in hell.
Yeah, and like, why are you fixating on her? Like, what did she fucking do to you? You know, wrestling fans are among there's sick, twisted, fucked up, messed up people all over the place. You know, in any kind of fandom and any kind of realm of whatever. But like, man, wrestling fans are fucking dim, and like this weird obsession that a lot of people have over things. And it's like, there's a different extent to different things too. Like, I'll laugh at the people that like say bring a championship title belt to a show. And it's like, I don't know why you're carrying that super heavy thing around and pretending like you won a championship. That's a little silly to me, but that's not hurting anybody except for your shoulder. Okay, fine. If that's what you find fun, cool. You get into these people and you're just kind of like, what is it that triggered you to make you so fixated on somebody like this? And, you know, why are you stalking Liv Morgan? You really think that she's tweeting at you or something? Seriously, get some help. If you are in any fashion feeling like you're like heading in that direction, you got to stop immediately, or else you're going to turn into these people, and they're just the worst.
the worst?
I guess on the side of things that are the worst, let's talk about releases. 4 releases at least confirmed for this week, and it feels like an old topic now just because this news cycle goes like crazy, but we haven't talked about it since the last Hot Tags because it happened afterward. In order of, I would assume, most people's importance from lower to higher, Freedom Ramsey no longer in WWE. He was somebody who had been brought in through the Evolve setup, and I don't know if he wrestled more than one match on Evolve, or if he even wrestled one at all. Evolve is something that a lot of people kind of skip over, myself included, so I just don't remember. There's too many, like, an onslaught of names, and I couldn't tell you if he popped up. I could tell you the ones that pop up every week, but then you got Sarah Logan, Valhalla. You got Carlito. And then you got the one that's been getting the most traction and everything, R-Truth. Now, we're not going to have much to say about Freedom Ramsey because we haven't really gotten to know any about him. On the Valhalla front, I'm honestly surprised she didn't get released several times ago. And that's not to, like, crap on her. I'm not doing this to be like, oh, Valhalla sucked or something like that. I'm just saying, realistically, if they are looking to cut people over and over and over again, every couple of months they do some kind of releases, and they are targeting people that in some cases are, let's face it, more important to the show than somebody like Sarah Logan was. She was Valhalla, a manager that didn't really talk for the Viking Raiders for when's the last time that she was just Sarah Logan by herself? It was before she got released the first time, I think, and came back as Valhalla.
Yeah.
So, she got released back when she was actually wrestling, and when she was actually wrestling then, she was the 3rd ranked person of a group that didn't really get a whole lot of anywhere. Liv Morgan was the standout. It's not surprising that she had gotten released. It's just surprising to me that they had waited so long, and I'm assuming that that's part of it. It's just her contract was pretty low. And they eventually just said, well, all right, we're not going to renew it, most likely. Seems like she's upset about it, but at the same time, she's willing to just be like, you know what? I'm done with wrestling. I'm retired. I'm going to move on to other things. And that's the healthiest way to do that. She has children. She has other goals, I'm sure. Her husband's still on the roster. So she's still going to be involved in some fashion with that. And I hope the best for her. That's good. Perpetually, we always say the same thing, and I'm sure that Rob and Callum agree with me. Like, we always hope the best for everybody.
So, I'll just say Freedom Ramsey real quick. Most interesting thing about that to me, it sounds like he's the first ID name to just be like, yeah, I'm no longer with ID.
Yeah. Or at least the first to say something about it.
That's the interesting part there. With Valhalla, the thing that pissed me off the most, and you almost did it, but you recovered at the end, was everybody's just like, yeah, she's not going to be in WWE anymore, ignoring the fact that she's just like, all right, so my contract's not being renewed, so I'm just taking this time to say I'm retired, and, I'm grateful for wrestling. I think this is a fine move for her. She was with the Vikings, but that kind of fell apart as they both got injured. And then she got pregnant again. So, it was just time for her to move on. I think, all things considered, she had a solid run in WWE. Probably had a, better career outside of it. And, happy for whatever she does next.
Yeah, I won't say too much on this front, but it seemed like it was a pretty clear-cut thing with Logan. Feels like, she hadn't been appearing for a while. I know she was on maternity leave at a certain point, and there was kind of speculation that she might come back and rejoin with the War Raiders. But it's when you've got so many people being released who were more prominently featured on TV, it's not really a surprise that she was let go. So
on Carlito, part of the Judgment Day, they've been talking about wanting to recruit new members. Now they lose one. And I'm not too shocked, to be honest, about Carlito either. realistically, they weren't using him as like a big prominent deal. He was just another person in there. He was another comedic role. He's somebody who is on the older side. They brought him in with like a big pop and doing the whole like LWO thing, but within a few months, he was already relegated to just like a background guy. And that sucks because I like Carlito, and I think that they didn't really give him a chance to do as much as he should have. I honestly think instead of him being a part of LWO, the better thing would have been to put him in NXT. And I think he could have succeeded a lot better there. Maybe not, you know, like, okay, well, now he's in NXT and he's the NXT champion and he's, you know, the top focal point there. But like, I think he could have been very useful there. And, you know, maybe, you know, some other things go a little differently. Maybe they would have kept him around or whatever. But he seems like he's taken this in spirit of just like making jokes about like, and then now they're requesting that I give them all the money back and everything.
Look, Carlito's the man. The fact that he saw his contract wasn't being renewed, he's just like, yeah. And by the way, they're requesting I pay them money because I've been stealing from them practically because he's not doing much of anything. So I think it's great. I think he had found a really nice comedy niche for himself in the last few weeks. The most annoying thing to me is that really he's just not going to be in the clubhouse. Like, he said flat out, I have 2 weeks left. You could have written him off television.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't like the whole, and now he doesn't appear. And apparently he took the PS5 with him because that's not in the clubhouse anymore.
I didn't notice that. He's got to make some kind of money back if he doesn't have enough to pay for the dinner that he wants to go on with Raquel.
That's right. He never got that date with Raquel.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the most shocking release. It's just annoying because talk about a guy who was featured weekly. Like, even the bigger name we're going to talk about wasn't featured weekly up until like literally last couple weeks of his WWE run. But Carlito's been on TV pretty much every week since he came back. And it's crazy that it's just like, okay, and he's gone.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that is, I would say, like, shocking because of the frequency at which he's appearing, but it's like, it's not shocking because it's Carlito. So it's, yeah, in 2025, like, I thought it was bizarre in the first place that they signed him on the contract after, I'd say his appearance at the Backlash show went down well in Puerto Rico, but it's like, okay, that's cool. That's a cool moment for him. Oh, you're bringing him back full time. Oh, okay. And it's like, it just feels, what could he really offer? So like people, even people that were like big fans when he was at his peak, probably either don't watch anymore or wouldn't be enticed to come back because Carlito was there, as opposed to the other big names that you had during the, I guess, mid to latter Ruthless Aggression era. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, he got a good pay packet out of it. The fact that he left that post about having to pay them back all the money afterwards shows that he's very self-aware of what his position was and how, you know, he got one fast final run. So it's all like good for him. I think he's probably someone that just won't feel any kind of like upset or maybe disappointed, but like not be disheartened about being released. He probably thinks, well, I got 2 more years than I ever could have possibly hoped to have gotten in WWE. So yeah, right, I think that
he got WrestleMania paychecks. You know, like, yeah, he's probably living good.
And he was out of WWE for years. It's not like he was like, you know, a lifer in WWE and then gets taken out and then gets brought back and then gets taken out again. And, you know, it's kind of like that kind of thing. Like, he got used to not being in WWE.
So I think he'll be able to go back onto the Indies or go back to Puerto Rico and do stuff with the promotion there, and yeah, and then can be called upon every now and again to make a guest appearance in some form or fashion. I don't think it's the last that we'll see of Carlito in WWE.
I agree.
Future Hall of Famer, as far as I'm concerned. They should induct him at some point.
What?
100%.
Yeah, I think that Carlito
Okay.
could be inducted.
Why?
Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame. Don't do that.
I know Kokomo is in the Hall of Fame, but like, come on, we need to draw some limits somewhere. Like, what? A guy that won, he had like one reign as Intercontinental Champion, one reign as United States Champion, had a pretty like overall underwhelming first run where everyone basically agreed that he's incredibly lazy. He's got loads of potential, but he's incredibly lazy, and so he's never going to live up to that potential. And then comes back to play like lackey for the Judgment Day for 2 years. Wow, what a Hall of Fame worthy career.
Coco Beware, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
The Coco Beware thing will always be my go-to as well. Just,
We should, yeah, but like we always go with the sort of thing of we shouldn't use that as a justification that everybody can go into the Hall of Fame, because then you just get into the realm of, well, yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. So literally, the guy that cleaned the bathrooms at like Madison Square Garden for 20 years, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame before. And it's like,
look, I hear you. I do.
Hey, Jameson's great. No, just
yeah.
I will say that I did just watch Typhoon go in the Hall of Fame. Not that, like, Carlito's in that realm. I'm not saying he's the headliner.
Typhoon is, first of all, tag team champion, so worthy of that, more than what Coco Beware ever did. And secondly, like, he's the Shockmaster, so he has a complete and utter, like, legacy in wrestling. That's more impactful. That one moment will live longer than anything Carlito ever did in his wrestling career.
Well, see, now that all depends on how far Braun Breaker goes, because that spear will be shown for the rest of his life, at least.
Well, there's definitely no debate about future Hall of Famer R-Truth. That guy, it's crazy that they just released him right now out of all things. Like, sure, maybe over the past bunch of years, maybe they would have gotten to a point where they did that. And maybe in the future, if they would have said that they would have released him like this time next year or something. But the guy just had his big whole thing with John Cena. Like, it just happened 2 weeks ago. And they're like, thanks for your biggest story that you've had in years. See you later. And of course, that's been the thing that most people are like flipping out about. Lots of people really upset because he was like universally beloved in the locker room, and people are really upset saying, how callous this is and how he should have been a legitimate lifer that's just literally around forever. I'm surprised that it's been a few days since then and we haven't heard anything yet about him getting some kind of a Legends contract.
Okay, so first of all, let me say, much like everybody else, I thought this was a joke. I was like, there's no way this is real. It must have been hacked. And then Sean immediately put out that it was real, that his contract wouldn't be renewed. Then my immediate reaction was, well, now I'm mad that they had him job out to Jeff Cobb on SmackDown, because if his last match would have been a singles with John Cena, wow, what a way to go. Now, most people are just assuming that was it anyway, so maybe it's fine. But then you get into I'm doing the article of Wrestling World Reacts to the news, and I've never seen the outpouring of love that this man received. And maybe it's because for a long time, at least for a few hours before they announced Carlito, he was the only one. But like, I've never seen just like everybody was just like, well, this is just bullshit, and we love you, and you're amazing, and thank you for the years of wisdom and experience from some people, whether it's WWE, AEW, TNA, And then Sean flat out says on Fightful, like, we've never received reactions like this out of all the hundreds of releases we've covered. And right then I'm thinking, well, they're going to lock him to a Legends contract, if only so nobody else can get him. Because they are that petty.
Mm-hmm.
But we're about a week in, and we haven't received that news yet. I think even into his 50s, I think Truth has not signed his last contract with a major wrestling organization. At this point, I'd assume it's TNA. But one thing's for sure, man, that man is loved. and it's genuine. And what a guy! Like what a career! You know, he might have been the longest signed person there because he joined in what early '08. He might have been the longest signed person not named Cena or Randy.
Maybe
I,
Ray. Ray
no,
was gone for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now he's a 5-star just dude all around, it seems, and it's kind of sad that he's gonna go. I think he made the most of everything he was ever given. You give him the Invisible Man, Little Jimmy, and he rode that for like 3 years. He's the man.
Okay, I'll do this because I feel like I need to. I'm really angry about this release, but not for the reasons why you guys are probably angry or frustrated about the release. I'm angry about this release because this is a company that has gotten into bed with Saudi Arabia, has had multiple issues with is currently at the heart of a sex trafficking lawsuit, and this is the thing that finally gets fans to turn on this company. R-Truth getting released, really, it's kind of more about it's not his fault. He's and I'm not discrediting his release because he has done a lot of great stuff with WWE, and he's had a very long and successful career for them. So all the credit to him in the world. I'm not trying to use this as a means to knock him down. It's more of a case of, wow, it's crazy what fans do care about and what they don't care about. What fans are willing to pass a side eye about and what they'll really get up in arms about. And it's completely backwards and bullshit. So that's what I
think. That though, because these are the same people who were, for the most part, saying, "Why are we wasting a Cena match on R-Truth?" So I think that fan base that you're talking, I understand your mood completely, but I think that they want to be up in arms about something.
I know, but I just think it's a very kind of irrational reaction to something that is fairly easy to explain. He's in his early 50s. He's not going to really add too much value to the company anymore. He's probably, considering the fact that he's been there for as long as he has, he's probably on a decent amount of money. So, it's completely understandable. Obviously, it's still harsh in the sense that every other release is harsh, but it's understandable why they're letting him go. And it's not a release. His contract is just not being renewed, so it's even more justifiable in that regard. So, I think that it's one of the weird ones where this release is it's probably one of the most justifiable releases they've done in a while, and yet this is the one that's going to get people most angry about it. And then I get to the question about, like you said, he probably hadn't signed his last major contract. I mean, the TNA thing makes sense, but then I basically say, well, that's essentially you're just working for WWE again, realistically. Just one step removed from working for WWE, because you could be called up to be on one of their shows at any point in time. What I would say about the AEW thing, I've gone back and forth about this one, because my normal reaction to anything like this would be, wow, another old WWE guy, I don't want to see him turning up in AEW. But I think because the vitriol towards his release has been so great, and because everyone is so up in arms about this, I think AEW should sign him.
Mm-hmm.
If the opportunity...
It's a goodwill thing. Not only for the locker room, but for the fans too, to be like, see, he is so beloved that we're going to bring him in because we value him and we're not as cold as TKO.
But it's one of those things, it's a good kind of moral play in that regards, at least in the short term, because it gives you some goodwill that you've brought him in. He barely has to wrestle. You can make him time up with someone who's kind of more of a comedy act, like a Mark Briscoe type or someone of that ilk, and just have him involved in skits. Basically be like Danhausen was during the time that he was with the company. Just take on that role for a year or two. Don't get him involved in any major storylines. Don't go super Billy Gunn with him, because we don't need another Billy Gunn in AEW. But then you have the issue with the fact that he's probably that goodwill's probably gonna extend a year or 2 years, and then you're gonna have to release him, and then you might get the the vitriol turned on you instead, especially if he goes to WWE again and signs a Legends deal or something on those lines, and then he'll feel like a returning hero. So I think that there's still a good reason to sign him, but you have to approach it with caution because like it's a balancing act with a guy that you definitely don't need and definitely won't use as a wrestler. But is it worth just signing him just because you can get one over on WWE by saying, hey, you let go of this guy that everyone loves, and we're going to just bring, like, Ron Killings is now all elite, and move forward there.
I think it makes, if you can sign him to, like, a tier, I don't know if they still do the tiers, but if you sign him to a tier 1 deal, and just, bring him in for a few appearances, get that goodwill, let him continue doing other stuff, I think it's a win-win if you can do it like that.
I think it would be cool, and if they were to bring him in and they actually decided, okay, well, let's try and actually squeeze the last juice out of this lemon. I think if you bring him in, you don't make him Goofball or Truth. You make him Ron Killings. You make him NWA Ron Killings.
The one that was like, can you believe Jim Ross?
Could you imagine him being involved in like the Hurt Business stuff or Hurt Syndicate stuff with that kind of attitude?
Would be really good.
Because I'd say like the people that, and he did do great work in WWE. Again, not discrediting that. I think he was a much more three-dimensional character when he was in TNA and NWA as Ron Killings. A more like a more believable, serious threat. I mean that Ron Killings was a world champion level performer, and then when he came to WWE, it's obviously he was sliding in the mid card with that sort of gimmick. You can never go from that gimmick and be a main eventer realistically. And but yeah, and the best run that he had in WWE as a kind of semi-main eventer was the heel turn, and that's probably like the best in terms of like where he was positioned and how seriously he was taken as a performer. That's the best that he ever got to. But yeah, as I say, it's a strange release because I'm sure they could have negotiated him to a certain level and just kept him around, either whether it is just as a Legends deal. I think that they've just attracted a lot of negative press towards them at a time where they're already starting to feel like the worm is turning in terms of their perception in the audience's eyes. To do this, it just takes another sideswipe to their reputation in the eyes of fans.
And that's what I said.
Good.
People looked weird at Sean because Sean had said in like a few years' time, this is going to be a big pointer to a huge mistake WWE made. And I agree because, not for the fans, I understand Callum's point completely, he's 100% right, but the locker room. This was the first like, oh, fuck this from the locker room, because remember, for the past couple of years or whatever, it's been a Triple H era, Triple H so great. This made it feel like it's not, maybe it's baffling and it's not that great, and maybe this turns the tide for real. Where people go, okay, all the goodwill's gone, this place sucks again to work for.
And I'll put out a little cynical thing, realistic, but like cynical, to be honest. The fans that are so up in arms about this aren't going to keep this going. Like, we've seen a lot of like, we want truth stuff on Raw. I would be shocked if we see that still continue on SmackDown even tonight. And if we do, that's great. Like, I'm not saying not to do that. I think that it's ridiculous how this company continues to make more and more money and then continues to act like, oh, well, we got to make sure that we cut this, whatever. You guys know fully well that I think that corporations are just evil. But I do not anticipate the crowd being like a month from now still chanting "We want truth." They'll get over it. And that's where like the argument becomes about like, is this going to be the thing that breaks a lot of people? Not the fans. The locker room, I could see that being a major factor, but the fans are going to just be like, oh man, truth. Oh wait, you got this person that's new signed? Oh, that's great. Let's talk about them. And then next thing you know, a year from now, people are like, oh, that's right, our truth hasn't been on the roster for a while and all that. And You know, it's been proven time and time again, even the biggest stars, the company moves on and the fans move on.
I mean, it's hard to like buy too much into the like "we want truth" chants and those sort of protests in the ring when they're sitting in seats that cost them $500 to buy. So it's like, so I kind of feel like, yeah, it's not going to have a lasting impact because it never does. WWE is a behemoth that will just keep trucking forward no matter what bad press it throws its way.
Now, if people actually, and this is a thing that goes with everything, if you actually want to influence some kind of change, you have to have the staying power to actually continue to voice those opinions and to actually try your best to, you know, keep the momentum going and all that. You can't be like, you know, how many protests in New York do I see a week of like, this is a thing that's really bothering me and I'll be back in a couple months. Okay, so you yelled for an hour. Nobody fucking cares when they're the callous, evil people that are doing these things. They just go, oh, they're doing that? Okay, never mind. So if you really are that upset about R-Truth, you have to keep those "we want truth" chants going for months. You know, CM Punk had that going for years. If you don't have the same energy for that, then, you know, then maybe you don't care as much. Like, call attention and call a spade when it comes to those things. So, I think that it sucks that R-Truth has been released. I think that obviously they could have figured out ways to get around this and not do it for a Legends contract thing, or they could have done. I mean, they're a company that has enough resources that they didn't need to do this. They felt like they did. They did. Now they should eat some shit for it. And I'm curious to see where he goes next. Because I think that, you know, in AEW, they could really use him for like a locker room boost for the morale. There could be some fun stuff in AEW too. Like, I'd like to see, even if he keeps the same R-Truth, like, crazy character, I'd like to see what he refers to certain people and get some jokes with people he's never interacted with before. Like, R-Truth opposite Orange Cassidy. What happens there? R-Truth and MJF. Down to see that. Maybe he calls John Moxley Dean Ambrose all the time. Like, you know, I mean, like, there's ways to play around with those kind of things. Or maybe you do get Ron Killings just like popping up in TNA or something, being like, all right, enough of the crazy stuff. Now that I'm outside of WWE, I'm going to do something different. And he could do something really fucking cool. The guy can still go better than a lot of people that are on the roster now, and it's insane. But on the topic of people switching out of the company, whether it was their choice or not, and trying to reinvent themselves, Jakara Jackson has rebranded herself as Mara Sadè. And I hate to be this cynical fucking type of person or whatever, but she and Cora Jade, she and Cora Jade and Gigi Dolin all did the same thing that everybody does. It's, I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to record vignette hype package of myself. I don't blame them for this, by the way. Of, you've never seen the type of person that you're going to get coming out of this now, because now the chains are off and now I'm going to be reinventing myself. And now I'm, you know, looking forward to the future. And man, you really need to sign me because I'm really great. The thing I have with that is, I think that the Mara Sadè name is very like Mercedes Moné, and I think that that's kind of like, all right, you're kind of just 2.0ing that a little bit.
It's just her name.
What do you mean? Is that her real name?
Her name is just Jakara Jackson.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so I'll backtrack on that. Never mind. I'm wrong. But I will say, though, it's still the same thing. We see the same basic promo from everybody that does this. It's the, I lost myself in WWE and I need to find myself again, so I'm going to burn pictures of my WWE self. My new name or my old name is blank. That's so much better, and I'm going to look in the mirror and have some effect about me being like, this is my darker, true self or something. I would like to see something different. And when there is something different, like Duke Hudson doing his little interview thing that he was doing, like that to me is way more interesting. I hope it works out for all three of them. Like, this isn't me crapping on that. It's just me being like, man, I want some new ideas. I'll be that asshole who says it.
Look, Jamara Sadè released a 30-second video. I think that's fine. Like, short, sweet, to the point. We legitimately don't know what she can do outside of a WWE setting, so that's exciting to see. I think she already got some like GCW bookings or something. Cora Jade or Elena Black and Priscilla Kelly, they were bound to do that. I do agree with you only in the sense that we've seen a lot of them in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like a bit of a different presentation. But if that's what they want to present their character as, sure. I want to see the run that follows. Because everyone now can do the whole, here's my exit video. I want to see people do, what Mox did, what Cardona did. What I like the people who genuinely go out and, you don't think of their WWE runs anymore. You think of who they are afterwards. And that's what I want to see from all of these people, honestly, because that should be the goal. The goal should be improve.
I think it kind of just boils down to that's what people want to hear. Essentially, when people leave WWE, if you're not a fan of the company, you want to hear that they were that the environment there kind of stifled their creativity and made them sacrifice what their own personal style or their own personal gimmicks or however you want to approach it. It just wasn't them, and so they speak not for necessarily themselves. They speak for the audience that they're trying to move towards, which is an audience which doesn't have a big WWE fandom attached to it. So you want to try and you have to always take these sort of things with a grain of salt. We don't think that they necessarily. I mean, some of them I'm sure are pretty truthful about it, but other cases it's a situation where they're just trying to exaggerate that in order to appeal to a fan base that wants to not just be negative towards WWE, but isn't a fan of the product, and so wants to get that whole rah-rah attitude behind them. So
rile them up as like, yeah, fuck WWE, I am gonna support them, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're appealing to that kind of audience if you want to. When you move beyond WWE into something else, and that's the immediate way to get people excited. And then obviously it becomes a lot more harder when in 2 or 3 years' time you decide, oh, they want me back, okay, and then you have
to be home.
Yeah, and then and then 5 years later they release you again, and then you try and do the whole song and dance again, and it's not quite as effective as the last time that you did it. So yeah, I think that's, yeah, as I say, that's the reason why people do it, and it isn't very original, and it's pretty like templated at this point, is because, and also there's the argument to say like there's always probably a glimmer of truth in there, because there is. WWE does take not so much your identity, but it does, like, it attaches its own name to you. It attaches the gimmick that they want to do, their own presentation. So once they go back on the independent circuit, it does give them the freedom to do what they want to do again. So as I think that it's a mixture of honesty, but then also just very evidently trying to target a particular fan base that has a certain viewpoint on what WWE is and what they stand for.
I'll put it this way. It is I got released from, and it's not even just WWE, it's also like some people with AEW and stuff too. But I got released from my pro wrestling company equivalent of when people break up out of a relationship and then they post on social media about like, now it's my era and like, you know, I don't have to be shackled anymore to my ex-boyfriend or my ex-girlfriend. Now I'm gonna, it's hot guy summer or like, you know, like one of those kind of things. And then, you know, it's a coping thing for a lot of people like that. And I hope that it's in their cases and everybody else's, like, I'm always rooting for people to actually like bounce back. I hope that it's more, I legitimately am excited to do this kind of stuff and it's not just a means to feel better about it and then do nothing. Like you said, like the follow-up is what matters more. This hype video for a week might get people talking. Let's see if people are talking about these 3 names in a month or in a year. And if they've gone and kicked some serious ass, which they should do, they should try to like reinvent themselves and really be like undeniable on that front. Or if it ends up being, I just want to go back to what I was doing before and I have less love for this business anymore. And I don't blame them for that either too. Like it kicks your ass when you lose a job. And if this is something that you're extremely passionate about, you know, it's one thing to be able to be like, say Shotzi being like, I'm still going to use the name Shotzi. Like, that's my name. They don't own it. Fuck it. I'm going to go be Shotzi and I'm going to do that. And it's another thing to just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I am done with that. It burned me too much. And, you know, there's different paths for everybody. But I hope Jakara Jackson, Mara Sadè, Cora Jade, Elena Black, Gigi Dolin, Priscilla Kelly, I hope that they all figure out some kind of great ways to go going forward, because they're all talented enough in different ways that it'd be a shame if they just completely quit unless they end up doing something else that they like better. Let's put it that way. What do we talk about for this next thing? Well, let's, I guess, start getting into some of the TV stuff and then kind of bounce around a little bit here. Monday Night Raw had a few things worth talking about. Some of it we already broke down on the Money in the Bank side of things, and we don't need to repeat, but that's okay. The other things that are going on, continually feuding towards, you know, other stories that are kind of not even really worth like diving super deep into, like, hey, what's happening with Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn? Well, we'll figure that out and whatever. As far as I'm aware, there wasn't anything on Raw that we need to fully address, but there was something that happened prior to Raw during a speed match that they were taping with Lexis King and Joaquin Wilde. Joaquin Wilde suffered some sort of a concussion or some kind of situation where he was knocked out a little bit, and he has now been pulled from Worlds Collide. So he will not be wrestling in that 6-man tag. He is going to be replaced by Lince Dorado. That's your one and only update from the pay-per-views that we didn't already cover on the pay-per-view things, but I don't know if that's going to change anybody's perspective, but I figured let's go ahead and toss it out there. Are there any last calls for predictions for Worlds Collide or Money in the Bank or anything else to address that your minds might have changed?
I can't think of anything in particular. I do feel more confident in my ladder match picks than I did on Tuesday. I do think it'll be Naomi and Seth, but I can't think of anything really changing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really pay attention to anything that happened on Raw anyway, so no, nothing's changed on my side.
Now on NXT, that has a couple things worth talking about for sure, and one of them is that they finally did address the whole North American Championship thing. And we got a little bit of a plan going forward. Super Sean Legacy is going to face the winner of the Worlds Collide match next week on NXT. So it's a roundabout way to go ahead and do this, but you know, they figured it out in one way or another. Dark State beats Chase University. It seems like Uriah Connors had some kind of like a tooth situation happening on there. Myles Borne beats Charlie Dempsey in the rounds match that they had, and that means that Myles Borne is able to leave the no quarter catch crew, which Charlie Dempsey was not happy at all about. And he's not the only person that left the group on this episode, because on the flip side of things, wanting to leave is one thing. Getting a steel chair to the back and being told you're out of the group is not the best way to go, but that's what happened with Brooks Jensen. He took a shot from Izzy Dame, who then said to Sean Spears and Nico Vance, Jensen never really fully bought into the Culling, so fuck that guy. And my immediate reaction was, oh, don't tell me that they're going to announce tomorrow that they released Brooks Jensen. So far they haven't, and I hope that doesn't end up happening in the case, because I actually like Brooks Jensen, and I hope that he sticks around in his role. I think he should team back up with Josh Briggs, and that could be the story. Maybe they go in that direction instead. It's kind of what I'm hoping for, but that took me by surprise.
See, with Brooks Jensen, first of all, in storyline, it's weird because how did the man not buy into the Culling when he was the first underling of Spears, and he was more focused on being the center of this feud than previously, because they were going to feud directly with Briggs. I'm now of the opinion that maybe they didn't let him go. Maybe what they're just going to do is they didn't announce opponents for Spears and Vance. Maybe they're just like, hey, it's Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen, let's go. And they just retcon everything and try to put that team back together. But it was very random. There was no lead up suggesting that they were going to do this. So it was concerning.
What's weird is that they got rid of him from that group, so now it's 2 men, yet they brought Yoshiki Inamura back.
Right.
So that would be Inamura and Briggs and Jensen against the 2 of them. So unless they recruit another person, there's no 6-man tag in there. Now, they could recruit another person very easily. There are people that are hanging around that they could just be like, all right, well, now this person's in the Culling instead. And that seems like that might end up happening with Tatum Paxley. So that's a different story, too. That they obviously they're not going to Brooks Jensen versus Tatum Paxley. But yeah, it's weird when these kind of things happen, because then it's kind of like, all right, well, you did it for a reason. And last time that we saw a group break up like that was Metaphor, and 2 of them got fired. One of them hasn't been on TV since.
You know, the interesting thing for me about the Myles Borne Dempsey thing was, I don't know if I've ever seen a man win a match with a dropkick. Like a standard dropkick. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I've been watching wrestling for 30 years, and that tickled me.
It kind of come up out of nowhere, didn't it?
I don't know if I would hope Dempsey's sticking around if he wants to, that is. You know, like, I like Dempsey. I want to see him used more. Myles Borne, they clearly love. I'm interested to see where the other 2 go, because I think Ren's great and I think Tavion's great. So these were 4 talented people that I don't want to see, you know, get relegated to having to unfortunately be released and potentially go do the NWA or something. Like, I want to see them and their careers prosper.
Any thoughts on those guys, Cal?
Sorry, were you talking?
NXT make you tune out?
Yep.
Well, there are some other things happening in NXT that you might have a different opinion about. When that's, you get rid of some people in some groups and stuff, but you also bring somebody else in. And they had a segment where JC Jane was talking about, you know, you've got this whole championship that she just won from Stephanie Vaquer, and let's explain how Fatal Influence is back on top. This plan that they had, the slap heard world in the world, etc. A whole bunch of people come out being like, I want to fight JC Jane next. I want to. No, I want to. No, I want to. No, I want to. And then eventually, if it starts off funny enough with Lainey Reed, which was like, okay, I haven't seen Lainey Reed in forever, and she was mostly on Level Up, so that's kind of strange. But it ends with Mariah May. Although not Mariah May, because they did the exact same thing that they did with Ricky Saints / Ricky Starks, where they did the whole, you know who this is, we're not going to say their name because we haven't figured out what their name is going to be yet, so we're just going to say all sorts of varieties other than that. Oh, NXT is more glamorous now. The glamour is here. One of the biggest free agents is here. She is here. You know who that is, et cetera, et cetera. We know now for a fact, based off of the way that they did that, she's not going to be Mariah May. She is going to be some other name. And we don't know what that is yet because they haven't trademarked anything and they haven't said anything yet. But it's going to be something else. So get ready with the pitchforks because she's not Mariah May. I didn't think it was the best intro for her character and everything. I thought it was pretty bland, to be honest.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, as you say, she's definitely not going to be Mariah May now, whatever she ends up being called now. We'll wait and see. But yeah, it was, I mean, it's your typical new champion promo train segment that they always do in NXT in particular. Seems to be quite a habit of this, where, oh, we just crowned a new champion, so let's get it happens a lot with the women's division as well. Just get every woman out in the background to cut a little promo about how they should be the next champion, and then we'll have them brawl around for a little while before then whoever the actual person is that's going to be challenging for the title, who is going to win the new championship, comes out and says, oh, I'm going to win it instead. And this time it's Mariah May. They seemingly are positioning her, at least for the start, as a babyface, pushing the glamour stuff, but like with the crowd's reaction and obviously JC Jane being a heel, it would make sense to position her as a babyface because she's the one that's going to win the title straight away. But yeah, as I think that her cadence suits WWE a bit more. She does have a very WWE promo style, which is a lot of enunciation, a lot of a bit slower, more methodical. And I think that, yeah, she'll settle in quite well, but I also feel it's just one of these interesting things between this AEW and WWE and how this stuff works, because, I mean, let's face it, at this point, AEW is WWE's best talent generator. It's no longer like the Performance Center. It's not the Indies. It's not WWID. It's not TNA. It's AEW is their talent factory. It's just trying to get people over from there because that's what they do. They bring them over. Zero changes in terms of their gimmick. They'll change their names in order to own the character, but the character will pretty much just be Mariah May. Probably just, a toned down version of Mariah May that doesn't like make out with her opponents or cause them to bleed by smashing a heel of a boot into their face and stuff along those lines. So, a slightly toned down, slightly more PG iteration of Mariah May, but pretty much just the glamour that we saw in AEW. And yeah, we'll see how it works out for her. Oh yeah, and then the idea that she has to start in NXT because she comes to AEW. You can't just have someone go straight from AEW to the main roster unless they've been in WWE before, because we need to make sure that she feels, even as vacuously as it sounds, it feels like to people who are just pure WWE fans that they signed her out of nowhere and they made her into a star, rather than, signing her as a kind of already, ready-made star from what she did in AEW. So she can't just go straight to the main roster. She has to spend a little bit of time in NXT so we can mould her into who we want her to be. Which I think is just it's funny. It's just the way they look at AEW as the talent-generating force for them, but then have to make sure that they only treat them as, they're still just minor leagues, so they can only go into our developmental territory before they're ready for our major leagues. So,
well, I think specifically with women, I think it works out for NXT because they like to keep up the perception that the division is so stacked. So adding another former women's world champion really helps. I'm not a fan of the Twitter tribalism, but I did laugh. I saw a post that said, "From Wembley to a warehouse is objectively insane optics." And look, regardless of how you feel about either company, that is true.
Yeah.
Mariah clearly loves WWE. That's the vibe I got, was like, Mariah genuinely seemed thrilled to be there. Like, that's why I think she came off this baby face, because she was just like, finally, I'm here. And I'm thinking, was there really this anticipated, like, for years and years, oh, Mariah's going to go to WWE one day? It just sort of happened that way. But I think it's because, we're entering that generation of, people who really wanted to be in WWE and nothing else. And I think the biggest danger there is what that does for like WWE in terms of leverage when it comes to negotiations. We talked about the Stephanie McCare thing a few weeks ago where she straight up said, "No, they told me good luck in AEW that they weren't not gonna match the offer." And I thought about it and said, "Actually, I just want to be here." And I think that's that's what WWE wants. That's great for them, but it's also dangerous for the industry. And I'm getting similar vibes with Mariah, just personally, that it feels like, oh, you would have done anything to get to this spot. Okay. And like, look, healthy for the industry in terms of people get to switch places, I guess, but also I think it sucks for AEW. It would have been cool to see Mariah stay and see where she went next.
I think that's just the issue that AEW have to face for at least a few more years, if not longer. That there is a generation of people, we've spoken about this before, so I won't just beat you over the head, but like a generation of wrestlers that have grown up only with WWE, and so that for them, that is the goal, that is the vision. And if that's so, that's totally their prerogative to do so. I just feel like, and if again, it's just based on reports, and so there may just be speculation. These may be inaccurate. She might have gotten a really good deal out of it, and I hope she did. And that her work in AEW helped her achieve a much better deal than if she'd just gone straight to WWE instead. But it's a case of if she was offered considerably more money to stay in AEW and then chose to go to WWE, as I say, people have different reasons and passions and interests, and so they can do what they want. But it does seem like, especially how WWE didn't offer or wasn't willing to offer the same rates for someone like a Will Ospreay or a Kazuchika Okada to come, and they end up in AEW. It does feel like they're relying so much on the brand value and their legacy and the opportunity of performing at WrestleMania and stuff of that ilk to drive people to come to the company rather than open their wallet a little bit wider, which is odd considering how many people they're letting go to try and compensate for that. But that's the only thing I'd say, is that I can understand why people want to go to WWE as just a goal, but I hope that they're not letting that desire, I guess, push down their market value. They should be getting paid what they deserve, really.
Yeah, we have no idea what her contract is, but if she's on an NXT contract, that's obviously smaller than the main roster. And that's actually one of their strategies, I'm sure, because the NXT contracts are definitely not the same. And some people get signed to a main roster contract and they still send them to NXT. And then that's just kind of like, we're signing you for the rate that we are going to get you at, but we want you to go through the NXT system first for whatever reason. And then when you go up, we don't even need to have to renegotiate. And then some other people, it is a matter of like, well, we can get them cheaper, so let's put them on the cheaper thing. And then we'll renegotiate in a few months or a year or 2 years or whatever, and we'll sort it all out if they actually were worth the investment to begin with. And, time will tell when it comes to anybody like that. But she seems like she's having fun, so, now we have to be on the lookout for whatever they rename her. Still taking bets on if she ends up going with something that's like a variation of Mariah May, like a Mariah June or something like that. Sally September, whatever.
I think if Ricky Sainz is any metric to go by for it, I think she'll keep Mariah at the very least. It's just whatever her surname will end up being. I still think it's going to be Mariah March at this point. I just think they'll just change the month. They'll just change the month to the other month that begins with M.
Now, Mariah Mead is her name, I think, right?
Yeah.
So it would be strange if it's Mariah Mead, And,
well, it's crazy because like her name is Mariah May Mead. Like Mariah May is her name.
oh, so it's even
May
more
is
so
her,
that
May
they
is
would
her
change
middle
it.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it'll be
like,
Mariah May. They're just gonna
because I don't think they'll
merge
go
them.
because they won't go Mariah Mead because that is her name, and so she could still use it because she owns that name. It has to be something that's completely original to WWE. You can still have Mariah in it, obviously, but the surname needs to be original to WWE. So
I think she's going to switch it around, and May is going to be her first name. I don't know what the
May.
it's not going to be May Mariah, but like I think it's going to be May
Day.
something. May Day, yeah, it's just going to be the Vito Kill villain.
Mayday is awesome.
May Day was fucking great. I loved May Day. Yeah, go back and check out the Review to a Kill episode of the Review to a Kill episode of View to a Kill. A View to a Kill is one of my favorite Bond films. It's so crazy. Can we get Christopher Walken as her manager? She comes in as May Day, and he's just like, I'm happiest in the saddle.
I had kind of said this. I like the name Marilyn Moore, Moore, for no other reason than it's just a like gun to my head. What would I come up with? I thought Marilyn to play off of the story she just did, a little bit of Marilyn Monroe, and I think there's a lot of puns with Moore. Like you want more, the glamour. I think Moore is a good last name for her. Honestly, even if it's Mariah Moore, like I think it fits. with what she's
Mariah
trying to do.
Glam Moore could end up being how they go. I really hope it's not just something like, and now I'm
Jane
Crystal Dreams. Like Cinnamon Spice, some other kind of porn star-ish stripper name that they end up going with a lot of these people. It applies to the men too, for anybody that's thinking that that's like a sexist comment. It's very porn starry when you have Lucky Cannon and shit. Mike Santana doesn't win the title from Trick Williams. Not at all surprising. Got the whole onslaught of very quick backstage segments, one after another. One of them being Luca Cristofino being like, "Hey, Tony D, I know you don't trust me, but what if I go over your head and I book you and I in a tag team match?" And he's like, "The fuck, man?" It's stupid as all hell. Obafemi's going to fight Jasper Troy for the NXT Championship on next week's show. And by the way, Tyra May Steele made her debut against Ariana Grace. So,
Tyra May Steele's great. Jasper Troy, I like his look. I think they're rushing to this match. I would have, slow burned.
But he's a monster, according to Booker T.
MONSTAH.
MAUNSTA, I think, or something. It was how he had said it. I don't know. Booker's great. On the Wednesday night side of things, we had the first ever men's Evolve Championship crowned Jackson Drake, and I'm a little bit surprised about that. Now, of course, I don't anticipate a lot of people that are listening to this really follow the show all that much, and I don't blame you.
NXT, he was on NXT.
Yeah. NXT in a match against Javon Evans, yet Javon Evans is the one that hands him the championship and they hug because they're apparently like really good friends. So that was a little bit strange. But they recorded this stuff back in like February, so that's a little bit different. He's part of the Vanity Project, which is one of the best things, if not the very best thing that they have going in Evolve, with Zeta Steele, Brad Baylor, Ricky Smokes, and Bryce Donovan. And I was assuming that they did so much of a push with Keanu Carver and so much attention with Sean Legacy that I did not at all think. First off, I didn't think that Idris Enofe was going to win. Just, I figured the other people were probably more likely, but I was like, all right, well, Jackson Drake's my number 3 rank. They went with him. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you that Vanity Project is probably the best thing to have. Just a, group of these young, full of themselves white kids, and I think it clicks. The NXT's on the CW, and this clicks for that. It's cool that he's champion. I hadn't seen a full match of his outside of Tuesday in the 8-man tag, but I'm sure he's good.
Now, switching over to, because I know Cal isn't watching this, switching over to the other thing that happened on Wednesday night, we had AEW Fighter Fest, the first of 2 4-hour episodes of this, which I am so sick and tired of watching wrestling, and we have to watch even more tonight and tomorrow and everything. They just did Dynamite and Collision back-to-back as part of Fighter Fest. Next week is going to be Summer Blockbuster, and they're going to kind of continue the same thing going. To be perfectly honest, I thought that for a 4-hour show that was supposed to feel a little bit bigger, I thought that this was not as big as it should have been. And they did some things that were pretty important, but they also did a lot of things that I felt were just regular episodes. And I kind of wish that they would have done some bigger bombastic things to make it stand out a little bit more. So I thought I'd have more to talk about on like certain fronts, but it was basically just an episode of words. I can speak English. It's just an episode of Dynamite and an episode of Collision. Like Collision in particular was just like, maybe we'll do like FTR versus Atlantis Jr. and Templario, and let's do Don Callis family against Bandito and the Outrunners and so on. So for 4 hours worth of the show, I feel like there's only a few real big talking points. One of them being, you have something you want to jump into already?
I'll jump in here with the negatives before we get to the really good positives. I feel like, as much as I enjoyed initially the announcement of a 4-hour Fighter Fest and a 4-hour show called Summer Blockbuster, if you're literally gonna show an end credit scene and break between Dynamite and Collision, call it Dynamite and Collision so people know what they're getting into. Because when you're giving me the Outrunners in hour 3 at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday night, it's not hitting as hard as it can. And that's not, I'm not saying AEW is the worst thing ever or whatever. Just like, yeah, I didn't need Outrunners in hour 3 of a 4-hour show. I went into it thinking it would be a bit of a mini pay-per-view. And it wasn't that. It was just Dynamite and Collision.
I was under no kind of impression that it was going to be a mini pay-per-view because we've just had a pay-per-view like literally a week and a half ago, and we've got their biggest pay-per-view of the year coming up in just over a month's time. So I didn't really expect it to be a super bombastic thing. I expected, if it is going to be split between Dynamite and Collision, then you'll do Dynamite and that'll be where most of the big stuff happens. And then Collision, where it's like, that's the wrestling heavy show. And so they'll put more matches on that show. So yeah, I thought that, they were TV shows. That's kind of fine. That's what we're building up to, a really big show. We can't be giving too many big matches away at this point.
Right. I think what I'm saying is by next week, now I know what I'm in for. So if they do hit you with Outrunners in hour 3, I'm not as upset by that because I know what this is now.
But also, it's case like that's at 11 o'clock at night. Who's really watching? Who's just going to, DVR that and watch it the next day? It's like, I don't think they need to worry too much about putting something super eye-catching on at that point.
Yeah, but they still saved the announcement of Omega Okada for hour 3, which I thought was strange, instead of just doing it right then and there.
They did announce that. It's worth talking about. We've talked about it a million times, though. So it's just, that's the thing we've been talking about. Omega Okada, all in, winner takes all, both belts on the line. They didn't clarify that it is going to be like the Intercontinental Championship, but they've got time to do that. And they might not even clarify that until after the belts are sorted out on who it's going to be, too.
We don't even know if they're going to unify themselves anyway. The guy could just have 2 championships.
Could very well just be that. They've done that before.
Yeah.
I've just never seen such a natural way to create an Intercontinental Championship that I would like to see it happen.
But they've established the 3 big matches for All In, which is Moxley, Hangman, Mercedes, Storm, and now Okada versus Omega. So those are kind of your 3 big selling point matches, and now everything else on top of that is more of a bonus than anything else. But as I said, they've set things in motion. Kenny Omega won the 4-way match. Everyone expected him to do so, but it was it was a fun match between him, Brody, Claudio, and Mascara Dorada. And we knew that was coming. but it's good to know that it's confirmed and it's going to be happening. So that's great.
Now, I'm of the opinion that if you're advertising these two men, we should block off an hour of the show for what they can do. Are you at all worried that they might not be able to deliver what might be in people's minds?
I think I think people need to somewhat temper their expectations. They haven't wrestled in, what is it, 4 or 5 years? Even longer than that, actually, maybe.
I think it's like 7 years.
Yeah, it was their last big match. They're still both very, very capable of having great matches, but, they're a lot older now. And it's a different dynamic as well because, the whole saga that they had in New Japan was around the World Championship, around them being the best in their promotion at the time, and Omega having to go through so many hurdles to finally win and get the victory over Carter after, well, technically 2 losses. A loss, a draw, a win in a G1 match, and then winning the title in that 2 out of 3 falls match. But I think that, so it's a different dynamic now. They're now 2 veterans fighting for 2 of the mid-card titles. So, and they're going to be further down the order. So I think it'll be great still. And I think that I'm going to go in with slightly muted expectations that will hopefully be far surpassed rather than expecting, okay, we're going to see just the next iteration of the greatest wrestling feud of all time. In ring wise, at least say with that. But yeah, as I say, they're at different stages of their careers. They're older. It's going to be a different style of match, but hopefully still a very good one. But then again, I saw what Kenny Omega did with Gabe Kidd earlier this year, and so if he can bring the same stuff out of Okada that he did in that match, then he could still be at the same level.
Match of the year.
So what we're going to see about that, of course, talk about more about that when time goes on and we get into All In and next couple weeks and stuff. We got stuff with Paragon. We got stuff with Patriarchy. Nick Wayne retained his ROH World Television Championship in a 4-way over AR Fox, Lee Johnson, and Sammy Guevara. And interestingly, Ricochet was ringside, impressed by that. So maybe it isn't going to be as obvious as he just brings Leo Rush and Action Andretti into a stable. Maybe he does pick somebody like Nick Wayne off from the Patriarchy.
You're right, maybe he adds AR Fox. And it's a
maybe AR Fox. Yeah, I don't know. That took me by surprise, and I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, it would be good to see Nick Wayne as part of another faction moving on, because he's building up his reputation a bit more now as the ROH television champion, and we know that the break with Christian is happening at some point in the near future. So him signing up with Ricochet as part of that could be really effective for him at this point in his career.
And we got Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne had beaten up Anna Jay, and coming to the rescue and helping out, Tay Mello makes her return.
Yeah, I was surprised how long it's taken for her to come back.
2 years. A little bit more than 2 years, actually. It was January 2023 when she stopped wrestling because she was then like, okay, now I'm pregnant. And I think that they announced the pregnancy in like March or something.
Well, the thing that I find more interesting about it is not like just for that distance. It's the fact that she came back to wrestling 6 months ago. She wrestled a match in Stardom
did she?
January this year. Yeah. So like that, then I'm just thinking, okay, so she's going to come back in the next maybe month or 2. But I don't know, they've waited a whole another like 4 or 5 months until bringing her back to TV, which is, it's fine. Now they've established that like they've had the Anna Jay and Harley Cameron connection, and Harley Cameron might be taking a bit of time off depending on the injury that she suffered, but seemingly Anna Jay's okay, which is good. But yeah, there's a good opportunity to bring Tay Mello in, reform that tag team, and then continue the feud on that way. So that's, it's a natural way for her to come back.
And I believe that that's all that I had written down from that, other than Tekla. It's Tekla, right?
Yeah, Tekla.
Yeah, Tekla made her debut. She beats Lady Frost, starts a feud after this with Queen Aminata. So It's a good debut.
Yeah,
Like what I saw.
she'll make some. It's a good good introductory match / feud to start her off in the company. She'll just unlike someone like a Mercedes that will go straight for the top. She needs to kind of build herself up by taking on some of the lower level AEW women's wrestlers, and then she'll move up. You imagine that she'll feud with a Thunder Rosa fairly soon and stuff along those lines. So there's a natural progression for people who are kind of less familiar to the AEW audience. And obviously, eventually she'll get to Jamie Hayter, because that's how her story started. So
I thought that was good. I just thought it was weird that they didn't follow up with the Jamie Hayter thing.
Mm.
It wasn't like she beat her so bad that she needed time off.
Yeah, I think they'll set up the Aminata thing. I think that's just going to be a match next week.
Yeah,
on the show, and then she'll beat Aminata, and then you'll set up the Jamie Hayter thing. And I imagine the Jamie Hayter match will be probably on the either buy-in or undercard of All In,
or maybe even as quick as the Grand Slam Mexico episode.
I would have said so potentially, but neither of them have kind of any roots in Mexico. I don't think they ever. Thekla certainly has only ever worked in Japan and Europe prior to being in AEW now, so I don't think that. So I'd say it'd be fine if one or both of them had some cachet in Mexico. I just don't think that they would do that match there. I think they'd save, if they for the women's match or matches on the show, they'd definitely use someone like Willow Nightingale, who's done a lot of matches there. That's when you could do maybe a Willow Marina Shafir match or something along those lines. The only thing that I would talk about from the Dynamite or Collision shows is the Toni Storm and Mercedes interaction. I think it's too comedic to start with.
Yep.
I don't think this. I'd say I know they're both kind of over the top characters, especially Toni, obviously, and I also know that AEW does tend to take a little bit of a step of going, okay, we'll start with the kind of light-hearted feud comedy thing, and then we eventually ratchet up to make it more personal and heated and angsty going into the actual match. I just think that this one is a case of, okay, you've done the comedy thing now, let's get a little bit serious beyond this point. So hopefully they don't do more steak dinners at ringside while a match is going on.
What did you think about that steak, Rob?
The steak looked good, first of all. I agree. Look, it's too comedic. I thought it was too comedic last week when they had their face-off that closed the show, and they're just peacocking. It's if not to keep beating the point of Sasha Bailey, because I think it's almost reaching a level of too much hype. But the reason that match was so special was because it was treated like a serious match. I think even though we've made so many advancements in the women's wrestling thing, you can't lose sight of that. You still want to treat it as serious as any other, men's match on the show or any other match. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of everything being silly. That's why I'm not. I don't love Timeless Toni, even though she's great and she's having fun and she's more over than ever. I want a little more seriousness.
So now let's round out our hot tags with a somewhat speed run pay-per-view predictions of the TNA Against All Odds. That is going to be happening tonight at, for some reason, 9:30 for the pre-show and 10 o'clock for the actual thing. Because why?
I believe that's because Arizona time zone.
Ugh. I don't want to be watching this at 1 a.m.
Yep, me neither.
I'm hoping
but I will
that
be
maybe
the one really watching. So run down the card and I'll give you my predictions real quick.
We got the Elegance brand against Zy Brookside, Myla Grace, and Harley Hudson. I'm just assuming Elegance wins.
Yeah, this is the first time the Elegance brand is a threesome, so they should probably win.
least on camera. The System, Moose, JDC, Eddie Edwards, and Brian Myers are up against the Hardys, Leon Slater, and a TBA person.
People over there, what's up? If you see any stand up, say what's up. I would assume so, wouldn't you? Like, why not?
I think it might be too soon with the contract.
They have a working relationship with TNA.
Yeah, maybe.
If not him, then I think it's Cedric. Either way, I think it's a Southern boy.
Mustafa Ali against Jason Hotch.
I think they're splitting this faction up too quickly, but I'm gonna guess Ali wins and Hotch falls back in line.
Steve Macklin against Mance Warner for the TNA International Championship. I am assuming every belt stays where it is on this show, by the way.
I would love for Mance to win. I think Mance is fantastic. But I think it'll be Macklin. I think Macklin will keep that belt for a while. They're doing this really annoying thing where they're like, Steve Macklin's going to show Trick Williams how to be a real fighting champion because Trick didn't show up for one show. Like, okay, whatever.
Joe Hendry's against Frankie Kazarian. I am assuming Hendry wins.
Yeah, why wouldn't he? He's the biggest star in TNA.
Santino Marella is accompanied by Irina Grace. Tessa Blanchard is accompanying Robert Stone. The winner of that match between Stone and Marella will be the TNA Director of Authority. So I am assuming this is the end of the Robert Stone story. Santino reaffirms himself back in that position, and they call that the end.
Really? I just assumed Santino was going to leave.
Huh. Oh, you know more about it than I do.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I just assumed that this was the end of the Santino run, which I've actually thought about it. I think he's been great in this role, and I'd like to see him continue, but I feel like it might be Stone.
I think Masha Slamovich is retaining the Knockouts title over Lei Ying Li. Xia Li. Fuck.
It's Lei Ying Li.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. It's one of those tongue twister things for me for some reason. Xia Li. She's going to be here forever in my mind. But yeah, she's not winning. Masha Slamovich retains.
Yeah, she's not winning.
Mammoth Brothers against the Rascals. That could change hands for the tag titles. But
I would love for Priscilla Kelly to show up here by her husband's side.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I assume the Nebbits are winning here too.
And then Elijah is certainly not going to beat Trick Williams for the TNA title.
Yep. You're right. That's that. Like, I hate that this is the match.
Well, they're killing time.
Like, you can't even say Ace Austin because he's not even there. Put him in the ring with somebody like you turned Eric Young babyface for a week, turn Moose babyface for a week, put him in the ring with Moose, put him in the ring with Eddie Edwards, put him in the ring with somebody that's like, yeah, you're up against the heart and soul of TNA and not the WWE guy.
Oh, at least it's not Ezekiel who's getting the title shot.
No, thank God. And it's not El Rod either.
Well, that is it for my breakdown of the hot tags. I don't know if I am forgetting anything else. Maybe I am.
I've got one more that I want to bring up real quick.
Go ahead. Toss it out.
The Observer reported that WWE had wanted Mike Tenay to do commentary for Worlds Collide. I don't know if he will, but I'd love to see it.
That'd be interesting. I guess we'll figure that out tomorrow. Remember, everybody, that is happening at 3 p.m. Eastern, and it will be on the WWE YouTube channel, not on Peacock and Netflix. And then, of course, we have Money in the Bank following that. So I don't know if there is going to be a post show for Worlds Collide or if I'm just going to wait, stay tuned and figure that out. But eventually there's at least going to be one for Money in the Bank. So that should be the next episode of this podcast. If you want to help support us, there are all these marketplace things we mentioned before. And you should also go to amangotree.com and find the link tree of all my stuff. and follow those accounts there. And also make sure that you're following Robin Callum.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful.com all weekend long. And yeah. Check out what Callum's got going on.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Weekmaster14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And then you can head on over to the Fantasy League, either via Smark at Moment or head straight to WWEFantasyLeague.com to see how our rosters are doing at this quite early stage in the process as Money in the Bank approaches, which could definitely shake things up in terms of points scored. And in terms of the predictions as well, who gets a little bit of an advantage heading into Night of Champions. So, yeah, follow that along there.
Okay, everyone. You know the score. Hit that like button if you didn't already, and leave your comments below. And stay tuned because we will be coming back up tomorrow with at least one post show, if not two. See you then, though. Right now, that's it for this Hot Tags. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything that you do. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.